Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Scaling Station podcast, where we highlight how real estate and prop tech leaders are rethinking the way deals get done. I'm your host, Will Radosky, and today I'm joined by Dylan Goren, co founder and CEO of Pillar. Dylan, thanks for joining me today. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
If you wouldn't mind just telling the audience a little bit about yourself, then we can get into it.
I'm Dylan Goren, co-founder and CEO of Pillar. My whole professional career has been in software for the real estate industry. I started off working at some smaller, earlier stage companies, Corbinize and building engines, and then ultimately made my way into working in JLL's technology division, which was where I was last, building software that was touching billions of square feet of real estate. And just learned a lot about the industry, saw a lot of opportunities, always wanted to set up on my own. And that's what I did about a couple of years ago to launch Pillar and help with site selection for ground up developers.
And was there a specific moment where you knew you had to start your own company?
It was something planted in my mind since I was young. My dad is an entrepreneur and his dad before him, also an entrepreneur, always looked at it as that's what a normal job is. And that's the job I went working for myself. Always worked on side projects of all different kinds growing up and in college, finding different types of side hustles and did an event production company for a bit, things like that. So always wanted to do it, went off and had to pay some bills out of college and, worked 9 to 5 job, learned a lot along the way and was always looking for the right opportunity. And I think the intersection of a big transformational shift in technology with everything going on with AI and building up enough experience to feel comfortable stepping out on my own and finding customers and solving problems. Always wanted to do it. And I think the timing was just right a couple of years ago and haven't looked back since.
And when did you launch Pillar?
We launched in January of 2023, coming up on 2 years here.
Love it. And in simplest terms, what is Pillar and who do you serve?
Pillar helps institutional grade developers find land faster. We combine, aggregate, and analyze information inside our platform to help our customers find off-market opportunities and contact landowners directly so they can win more deals. That's the gist of Pillar.
Love it. Like an end-to-end land acquisition platform. And
100%.
awesome. I've been in the prop tech space and know a lot of people will pull a list and then sit on it and not take much action. Did outreach being ingrained in the platform, was that always something you envisioned?
No, I think it's something that we stumbled upon. Originally, we were focused on the analysis of information, helping to build those lists, like you mentioned. In our early days, we had a lot of customers pulling on us to be analyzing zoning codes and future land use to identify opportunities where there was a property zoned for less than what the future land use was going to allow and try and systematically identify that across 250,000 parcels in a county. So we started off in that direction. And I think over time, as we started to find more and more of the critical information that our customers needed to identify quality sites, we found that the natural next problem to help them solve was, I like this site, I want to buy it. So in the beginning, it wasn't a part of the platform. Over time, it's become a more important piece of this end-to-end land acquisition platform, like you mentioned, where you can not only build the list, but in the same place, click a button and take action on it and have it actually turn into, a pipeline of later stage leads and eventually deals.
Love it. Within the platform, what are some of the filters you're seeing a lot of traction with? You mentioned zoning codes. Is that typical?
Yeah, I think zoning is something that a lot of folks use. I think the current use of the property is perhaps even more important. So taking a look at, whether it's vacant, if it has a small building on it, going and pursuing opportunities like find, all of the churches in Northeast Atlanta, something like that. So those are some of the filters that we see people commonly use. Another one that is very helpful is when we're working with customers who are small, lean teams working across big geographies that have to cover many different submarkets. We've built functionality that allows you to look for sites in close proximity to a point of interest. It could be find me all 20-acre assemblages near a Publix, within 5 miles of a Publix, or 5 miles of a grocery store, or 5 miles of a $1,500 a month rent apartment. That's something that we've seen helps to really cookie cutter up a really big, broad geography and find all of the pockets that are really interesting. That's a good heuristic that a lot of folks have taken to in our platform.
What would you say is the biggest pain point in land or site selection that nobody's really solved up until this point?
I think that, to maybe speak more broadly about this, all of the tools and solutions solving site selection today are taking more of an incremental approach than is now possible. And what I mean by that is, historically, most of the platforms that people are used to using is a map that you log into with dozens of layers that you can turn on and off to search around and validate and say, do I like this site or not? Is it in a floodplain? Does it have wetlands on it? How does the slope look? What's the zoning? But I think what we've started asking ourselves more and more, and what to us feels like the answer to your question of, what is the biggest unsolved problem is, what's the end goal when you're performing a site search? Is it really to find a 20-acre site that's outside of floodplains, or is it to find a deal? And I think that reframing of the search to say, how can we bring the end result to the beginning of the search? How can we try and understand that when you're asking our platform to analyze all of this information that we've aggregated about topography and the market and parcels, how can we actually have the system look through all of the possible opportunities in a way that aligns with what you're looking for at the end of the day? And, I guess to try and give a tangible example of that, one way that we're exploring trying to do this, and this is something that's more on the bleeding edge of what we're building, not necessarily something that's available to the public as of yet, but something that we're building in close collaboration with customers, is, how can I define what my specific acquisition strategy is? What are the deals that I'm trying to look for? And what are the projects that I'm trying to pencil? And to give a little bit of my underwriting logic as inputs to Pillar's platform so that it can say, for example, if I'm trying to go and find everywhere that I can fit a minimum of 200 lots of single family detached homes where I can make an offer on a piece of land, perform horizontal development, and then flip it, how can Pillar go and look across all of the parcels to say, here's all of the places you can fit those 200 lots, and here's what the offer price is for that land, and here's an email that you can send to the landowner saying, here's my offer range based on initial due diligence. Are you interested in having a conversation about this? So really just trying to get the job done. I think for this particular vertical of customer that we work with, the biggest unsolved problem in the space today is that there's lots of platforms approaching that problem from different angles by layering and aggregating a lot of information, but very few, if any, platforms are willing to say, we can implement the logic to do this job from start to finish. Go find me everything that pencils and write me up an email to reach out to them. And I think that unlocks a lot of new possibilities for real estate developers about how they can think about doing their jobs and where they get to spend their time. If I'm able to execute on the strategy that I'm currently doing today in a tenth of the time, that opens a lot of doors. Maybe now I have time to start working on a few other types of strategies, a few different creative angles, and be executing those in parallel to open up the surface area for new deals, new opportunities, which I think is something that a lot of people are feeling in today's market, where fewer and fewer deals are penciling, the importance of doing that.
Absolutely. Rather than going parcel by parcel and seeing if there's a fit, one theme is getting a subset for the developer or end user to then go and come through.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's bringing best business development practices to land acquisition. If you're familiar from your time, see Will, and focusing on business development, best practices are moving is, you have to be hyper personalized in order to stand out. You can't send the same vague message to everyone and expect that to work. How do you break out of the noise? And I think a lot of what I'm seeing when you see tools like Clay and communities that pop up around them, the reason that people are drawn to them and the reason people are seeing success from them is it allows you to define and find leads with high precision and then send them a message that connects very closely, where it stands out in their inbox and they actually pick up the phone rather than feeling like it's a piece of spam. So I think bringing that level of precision to say you can define a subset, like you put it, and then actually take action on it, I think that's definitely a big theme of what we're trying to push on the frontier of land acquisition.
100%. I think that'll really resonate with people who have looked for land deals. Just curious, how do you kind of go into the hyper personalization? Is it specific to the property? If you could just share on that a little.
I think it has a lot to do with the developer, our customer. It has a lot to do with us being able to mold our platform around them. No two developers will look at the same property in the same way. That's one thing we're trying to bring to the table. Whatever your unique market insight is, the specific angles you're trying to bring to the table, whether it's identifying land that is in the path of growth and maybe more long-term opportunity for taking through entitlement and performing a land banking strategy. That's a different way of looking at the market versus saying I want to look for underutilized land that's as close to main and main as possible and finding unique opportunities related to differences in future land use versus zoning codes, or maybe just where there's an underutilized site that I think I could take through a rezoning application. I see that there's a small retail location here on this perfect 2-acre tract in downtown, and there's some multifamily nearby that's doing really well. And I think I could make a case to the city for this. So I think it's really about systematizing that. What's the perspective of the developer? And how can we make a glowing map of all of the opportunities that are fitting what they're defining as their perspective? So I think that's one piece of it. And then I would say the way that we would like to bring that all the way to the end of the workflow is once you've done that type of search and found your set of sites, how can we ensure that the messaging you're sending out when you reach out to these landowners is reflecting that unique perspective you have on the market and standing out from the noise and breaking away from the pattern of dozens or hundreds of other people who are reaching out saying, would you like to talk to me about selling your land? How can you show that you've done your homework more and that you've got a unique angle on this and are in a position to deliver value before you've even started the conversation with the landowner? So again, whether that's here's the offer range that I'm willing to give you and the reason and the logic behind this, maybe even referencing some data points about how you got to there and why you think that that's a standout offer. Those are some examples about how we'd like to bring that end to end in terms of personalization.
That's awesome. Cool. And zooming out, someone that's been in the industry at smaller companies and JLL as well, just kind of curious where you see the real estate tech space today and where was that, say, 5 years ago?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your input on this too, Will. I'm sure you've got some color you could add to this. In short, maybe what I would say is that real estate technology or prop tech has really been in its infancy. Going back 5 years, there's examples of mature companies that have succeeded. If you look at the ecosystem and the amount of competition and the amount of products that are offered for the average real estate use case, whether it's I'm operating a building and I need property management software, or I'm going out and hunting for land, compared to other spaces where software is more predominant. There's way more development, way more competition, way more money flooding into the space. As a result, there's a huge disparity in the maturity of, if you look at a product like a Facebook, an Instagram, a TikTok, and the amount of time, effort, and investment that has gone into producing those and the scale that those have reached, I think there's a really big deviation between that and some of the top applications in the real estate space. But I think that trend has definitely been shifting, and there's an increasing amount of value that software can provide to real estate use cases. And I guess one interesting way of thinking about this that I've heard is real estate has an opportunity with technology to skip a couple generations. Real estate wasn't at the forefront of every single tech wave that was happening before, with, when software as a service started or when mobile devices became big, cloud computing, all of these things that transformed a lot of other industries that maybe with real estate felt it less. AI perhaps presents a unique opportunity where, because there's a peanut butter and jelly situation with real estate and AI, just because real estate runs off of so much unstructured information, whether it's zoning code, permitting information, lease abstractions and documents, things like that. It's a lot of PDFs and emails and Excel sheets, and that is right center stage with what AI is good at extracting value out of and unlocking new use cases with. So I think real estate is in a unique position where it can really embrace that and skip ahead. Those are a couple of the things that I think, and I feel like we're definitely going to see and already are seeing a big uprising in the amount of interest in solving problems for real estate and specifically with what AI can do. But I'd like to hear what you think too, Will. I'm curious your thoughts on what you've seen over your time and where you think things are going.
Yeah, I think for so long, leaders in the space haven't had to rely on technology whatsoever. They're out in the field, boots on the ground, shaking hands, and are able to kill it. And still today, September 2025, leading brokers don't necessarily need to have the sharpest tech. But I think now so many brokerages, developers are kind of ready to throw money at AI and look for that next solution. And what I've felt in conversations with founders, operators, investors is a sense of tool fatigue. I think Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, called this the fast fashion phase of AI tools coming out. There's a new one daily, a bunch of competing tools doing similar things. And it'll be really interesting to see what sticks around after 12 months or so. And I think one thing that's going to be huge is an end-to-end platform, is something where you can not only pull a list and then go to another software to reach out to them, but tell a couple analysts or a couple acquisition pros, log in here and literally go from A to Z in the process, or at least A to X. It's just interesting because a lot of brokerages probably have 4 tools just for prospecting, but we're starting to see overlap, or tools like Pillar adding a feature like email outreach, where you can hopefully eliminate Salesforce or certain tools that have been a standard for quite a while.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in there because you're touching on kind of what changes in the software space, not only in the real estate software space, but how do software companies get built differently? One of the biggest enabling factors with AI, you brought up Sam Altman kind of talking about an era of fast fashion software. It's easier than ever to go and make a piece of software. I think it's awesome being shared on LinkedIn of people building their own tools. It's incredible. And I think that it asks a lot of interesting questions related to what you're talking about, which is like, what does it mean and what sticks around? My stance on this is that the best part about being able to build software easier than ever before is I think that it actually asymmetrically benefits small companies. I think it does for software vendors or software companies in the real estate space what YouTube did for video creation. Previously, if you wanted to make a video and share it, barrier to entry is extremely high. You could either, make something on your laptop or computer and show it with friends who you could get in front of in person, or you could be a Hollywood movie producer. When there's an enabling layer like a YouTube for video or AI for software development, I think it will enable some larger companies to benefit and succeed. But I think overwhelmingly what it actually does is benefit a long tail of much smaller providers. The reason that a lot of real estate companies and professionals are feeling tool fatigue is that they're trying to cobble together, I need these 10 jobs to be done, these 10 features to go and complete those jobs, and I can't find them in one tool. I have to kind of stitch together different tools that are really built for bigger things than just my job alone. And so you end up with this imperfect fit, and it ends up being really tiring because I think everyone feels like they're constantly trying to go through an evaluation process of, is this the best tool to be using? There's this new one. How's this going to plug into what I'm using? I think that is a tremendous opportunity across both real estate and any other industry. And I think that's a space that we're trying to fill a pillar to say, like, who really wants to be using Salesforce plus a separate skip tracing provider, plus a separate mapping tool, plus an Excel spreadsheet, plus all of this other stuff, when we can come in and as a small company say, hey, this problem is maybe too niche for the big companies to go and solve. They're not going to fix it for you because they're focused on bigger and better things. But that's where we can come in and say, hey, we're willing to sit down and understand your problem end to end. And we'll take the best features from each of those tools that you're trying to repurpose for your problem and roll it into one thing where it feels seamless. You can click 2 or 3 buttons to get your job done more effectively than trying to click 10 buttons and log into 3 different platforms and exporting an Excel sheet and pasting them to somewhere else. It just, nobody wants that. So I think that's going to happen a lot across a lot of different use cases. And I think that's in one way what we're trying to do, like with the land acquisition job.
Able to be more nimble. Have there been any pivots or shifts since the product's been out?
Yeah. If you go far back enough, we built a maintenance chatbot, was our first product, helping like with residential property management. That was taking work order requests from tenants and passing it to property managers. We built a few different things along the way there, helping with software that was helping with like the permitting process, trying to help in the public sector with evaluating site plan applications and checking it for compliance to say, is this approved or not faster, because permitting takes a very long time. When we got into site selection, we started very focused on processing zoning information. That was the most recent place we were coming from, was helping permitting and analyzing zoning codes for compliance. And we said we could actually take this same technology and apply it for helping real estate developers find sites that, give them enough density and height to build what they want to build. So that I think those are some of the early stage pivots that kind of evolved to how we got into site selection. And then there's definitely been a lot of like improvement and changes and trying creative new things along the way with site selection. But largely, I would say it's all been focused in the same direction of find me a site, contact an owner, win a deal.
Love it. And yeah, you mentioned unique data sets like sewer maps and topography related items. Just curious if there has been one feature that users really can't live without, and if it surprised you at all.
That's a good question. It's tough to put a pin on a single feature that nobody can live without. If I had to choose, I would say the skip tracing in the platform is the thing everybody is using all of the time, is getting to the contact information. And that's something that we put a lot of work into improving over time as well, where initially we started with working with a single provider, and now we've built up a more complex system that is able to check across multiple providers, verify and confirm, that, if you're getting an email, that it's actually something that's deliverable and it's not junk mail. So those are all things that shave a lot of time off of the user's day. And it's not even something that, it's invisible to them. It's still just one button that they click and it all happens in the background. So we're constantly improving that, but I would say that's probably the number one feature that any single customer can't live without.
And, looking forward, where do you see Pillar 12, 18 months from now at the end of 2026?
Yeah, I think we have so much runway to build so much more. I've been really pleasantly surprised by how deep we can go with this problem and how it's much larger than just find me all sites that I can fit 200 units of multifamily on. It's been an adventure. And I think that we've spent a lot of our time up until this stage laying the foundation for what the company evolves into next. And so we've put in a lot of time and effort into understanding what are the critical pieces of information that our customers need to see so that we can give a very focused set of information in our platform that they can browse and search against. And I think that really what that sets us up to do, we've combined information that you'll get from public nationwide data sets down to things that are really hard or next to impossible to aggregate on your own, getting into local government information on development impact fees and tax rates. We've built out infrastructure so that we can aggregate that into the platform and give you those answers without you having to perform a search every time that you click on a property. All of this information that comes together that we've identified is critical for people saying at the end of the day, yes or no to a deal. Does it work or does it not? I think sets us up to build more of the end game. Just get straight to finding me a site that pencils. Why mess around with all these buttons and filters and sorting in between? Can't I just tell you what I'm trying to build and how my underwriting works and then go apply that across my entire market? So I think 12 to 18 months, I definitely see us taking meaningful strides in that direction and hopefully seeing a lot of adoption and a lot of deals continuing to come in through the platform, helping our customers grow their business so we can grow ours.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to follow along. If anyone listening wants to follow along, was it pillar.codes?
Yep. You can find us. LinkedIn's probably the best place to keep in touch with us. Find me on LinkedIn, Dylan Goren, DYLAN, GOREN. And then our website, you can check out if you want to see a little bit of information on us, pillar.codes, PILLAR.CODES.
Yeah, there's a 3-minute or so video that I highly recommend checking out. Great visual representation of a lot of what we talked about here today.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining me, Dylan. I'll leave the links in the description, but appreciate you again. And thank you folks for tuning in.
Thanks, Will.